Ready, Jericho?
Ready, Ted?
One,
Two, one,
one,
two,
two,
three,
three,
four.
four. What is up, Geek to Geekcast? It's another episode of the Countdown to the Geekcast. We've been waiting for this one for such a long time. It is the Countdown to the Geekcast review of Bill and Ted Face the Music, aka Bill and Ted 3. My name is Steady, also known as Ted. With me on this episode, the one and only Jericho.
What's up, y'all?
I might just call you Bill for the rest of this episode just because.
Yeah, that works for me, Ted. Fun fact,
Ooh.
Teddy, or Steady, was actually named after Ted from Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. His dad is a huge fan
Who saw
of the
the
movies.
future because I was
Yes.
born before
Yep.
the movie.
Yep.
But he knew what was coming, so yeah, definitely.
Ted didn't have a name for the first 6 years of his life.
That's what it was.
And then the movie came out, it clicked, and that's the story of how Steady got his name.
That's his story, and I'm sticking to it.
Yep.
This has been coming for a very long time. Was blown away, surprised when they announced they were even developing this movie years ago. Never in a million years did I think there was any possibility a studio would take a shot at making a sequel. I didn't really think there was a big enough fan base for the sequel to happen. We've seen other movies have sequels. Terminator came out with a sequel many, many years later. Halloween's been coming out with sequels many, many years later. We talked about Dumb and Dumber over the phone, had a sequel decades later. And I figured something like that would have had a much bigger fan base than this one.
Yeah.
But to my surprise, to my astonishment, and to my happiness, came out with a sequel. And if you're a big fan of the original two films, came out in 89 and 91. I mean, forever ago. We're talking like almost 30 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
31 for the first one. But the only thing I want is just a pure Bill and Ted essence of a movie. It's like corny, not stupid. It's funny, but not too gimmicky. I'm not really sure if that's really what they're going for, but I was just shocked this movie was coming out, and I knew exactly what I wanted to get from it, more nostalgia than anything else. But when you first heard about it, what was your general thought? Was it like, oh no, another sequel they shouldn't have touched, or another franchise they shouldn't have touched, or were you actually pretty happy about it?
I was actually so happy because I love part 1 and 2,
Yeah.
but scared because like we said, Dumb and Dumber was a great film, but then you get part 2 and it wasn't all that great. So it was kind of up in the air. They can go either way. There's been a ton of movies that have been rebooted and sequeled and whatever, and they just sometimes don't work out. So if it was a bad movie, it wouldn't have ruined the first two for me. But yeah, just hearing the announcement, and then as the cast started getting revealed more and more, like I was getting more and more excited. So even if it was what do you call it, like a fan, a notice or a letter to the fans, even if it was just something like that, like I would have been down for that, and we'll get into the movie too, but just even if it was just that, like if you had to see the originals to enjoy this one, like I would have been fine with that,
One of my original thoughts was this is going to be just like Terminator 3, Rise of the Machines, in the way that Bill and Ted Bogus Journey pretty much like solved all the problems, right?
Right.
They wrote the song that saved the world or the universe or whatever else. There's no more story left. T2, you destroyed Skynet. Arnold Schwarzenegger, spoiler alert, even destroyed himself to make sure that there's no remaining leftover parts or components from Skynet. So it's like saved Armageddon. But we still got Terminator 3. And the only reason or explanation we got a sequel for Terminator 3 Rise of the Machines was you can't stop Armageddon. It's like, what? We just had a whole movie about how you plan on stopping it, and you achieved that goal.
Yeah.
Anyways, I wasn't expecting this big story plot, but I also didn't want just because reasons these guys are back
Yeah.
having to save the world or save time and space all over again. But it's kind of what we got. But I was willing to go with it. They're not taking it too seriously, so I'm not going to take it too seriously either.
Right.
But let's get into the story. Let's get into this film. Keanu Reeves, Alex Winter. It's like they never missed a beat or they never took
For
a break
real.
from these roles.
Yes.
I think even more so Alex than Keanu. Alex
Yeah.
just has the tone of his voice completely in sync with the character. His just everything, the quips, the
Yeah.
facial expressions, pure Bill S. Preston Esquire.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
He
for
just
sure.
nails every line he's supposed to hit in the role, the best ones, or when he's sort of aggravated or upset. And when he's calling people names, he just like twists his face and he just nails the line. He's always just, you dick, or just whatever. And he
Yeah.
just kills it, nails it. Alex Winter fell back into this role head first, and I absolutely love him for it because he had to just come and do this role again after 29
Yeah.
years, and he absolutely killed
Hey,
it.
You know, what's trippy about it is I actually read, and I don't know exactly how true this is, but I read that he had to take acting lessons again
Oh wow!
because he hadn't done movies in a while as far as the acting part.
Right.
He's been doing, I guess, a lot of director or behind the scenes kind of deal. But so if that's true, like that's pretty crazy to to have to need the lessons again, acting lessons, and for it to seem like you never skipped a beat. Like it felt like they've been doing this for since since Bogus Adventure. You know what I mean? Like it was amazing.
Yeah.
It was hard for me at first, the first few minutes, to see Keanu Reeves in that role again because he's been in hundreds of movies since then. Maybe I don't want to say thousands, but hundreds of movies.
Yeah.
And all range of movies, and hardly any kind of comedy. So, with the exception of what was that one on Netflix a few months ago? Always was it Always Be My Baby?
Yeah.
Yeah. So outside of that, I don't think I've really seen him in comedy roles, besides these movies. But so it was a little hard at first to take him serious as Ted, but it worked. It worked, and I mean, same thing. Like he just kind of fell back into it. Like it was great. I loved it.
I love that this movie starts off just already being ridiculous and absurd. It starts off with a wedding between Missy, who is the gorgeous mom from the original films, and she's now marrying Bill's younger brother Deacon. And Ted's
the
dad
explanation alone the explanation alone was great.
Oh my God.
And then, I forgot how they said it, but it was like the dad became his own, what was it, son-in-law or son?
Ted became his own
something
uncle.
like that.
The dad
Yes.
becomes his own son. Ted's dad becomes his own son. It's so.
And I'm sitting there thinking about it, like, okay, like I'm trying to follow it, and I'm like, no, yeah, that's that's right.
Absolutely
But it's
right.
so stupid, but not ridiculous. Like it was funny.
Yes.
Like it really, like they didn't have to explain that at all
You're right.
by any means. But just the fact that they did, like, oh my gosh. And then like the whole wedding ceremony. I mean, the reception, all that, and oh my gosh, like it was ridiculous.
It's corny, but it's always a little bit grounded. It's not over the top. Like, this isn't something that you think is impossible to happen. And Bill and Ted are these weird characters in that they're not idiots, but they're also like just a step behind or their view of the world is just in this different angle that nobody else can perceive it
Exactly.
in. It's just weird, and I don't know any other characters like that. Even a
Not at
character
all.
like, even a character like, I don't even know, like other surfer
Like
characters,
like they
cartoons like
yeah,
Shaggy or
I was gonna
something.
say they don't
There's
they don't fall into a category.
yeah,
They're not stoners, they're not surfers, they're not
they might be
uh
stoners,
they might be, but they never
but they're
show that,
not
and they're
explicit.
not
Yeah,
yeah, and they're not like I want to say they're airheads, but they're not because they have they have like bright lights that go off from time to time, and
you're right.
um I'm thinking about the couples therapy scenes. Like I don't know. I mean, I love this movie.
Which
I really
before
did.
we get to that couples therapy scene, just the song between them alone, Bill and Ted
Yeah.
playing this reception song, all the random instruments going into it, like all of this is working for me. All of this is
Yeah.
funny to me. I don't know why. It's not rolling on the floor funny, but I'm liking it. I'm enjoying it so far. The introduction into these two characters again in this world, I'm digging it, and it's a really fast introduction because right after this,
Hmm.
these we find out both of these guys are going to couples therapy. Weren't supposed to go together according to the wives, but these two guys are inseparable. So
Yeah.
you're seeing what the pros and the cons are with being so close to your best friend. And no
Yeah.
one's this close to their best friend, but still, like, you're so attached at the hip that even when you're telling your wife you love them, you're never able to say the word I in the sentence. And it's dumb, but that's funny. I don't know
And they're
why but it's funny. Even how it is corny, but
yeah.
it's funny to me. All these jokes, all these little things, they're working for me. I'm going with it.
Hmm.
How about you?
And it was so normal for them too. Like you know what I mean? Like they're just like when they're on stage, like just like our intro, they're taking turns
Yeah.
back and forth, telling their wife stuff, and I mean, and they don't see what the problem is with that. They don't see the problem with being in a couples therapy together,
What's
not
even
understanding the fact that it's couples for them,
yeah.
their own separate couples, not being a couple of couples, like Bill said.
What's even funnier is how they are supporting one another. Bill's like, "Oh, great job,
Yes.
Ted. That was awesome,
Yeah.
man." And then he's like, but he's also like, "No, no, no. I got this." And he does
Yeah.
the same thing, but he's like, "From the bottom of both my and Ted's hearts." It's
But what's funny about that scene too is he tells Ted, he's like, it was something like, that was a great job, but I don't think you're getting it, or something like that.
yeah, yeah. I don't
And then
think
he
he's getting
pretty
it.
much says the same thing.
He thought it was spot on, though. He thought it
Yeah.
was spot on.
Oh my God.
So
That was awesome. And when
it's
we're barely, what, 20 minutes into the movie at this point, if
exactly
that?
it's a really quick introduction into finding out,
Yeah.
kind of all of the issues that these guys are having. They're not stars anymore.
Yeah.
They don't have jobs. Ted's dad is dogging them because these guys don't have adult jobs.
Yeah.
I don't know what the princesses do. If they don't have jobs, then what the hell? How do they have houses?
Yeah.
Um, their marriages aren't really in good spots right now, and they're
Hmm.
hurting for money because Ted's even thinking about selling one of his Gibson Les.
Yeah.
I want to say Les Pauls, but maybe it's just a Gibson. Um, and so it's just like, wow, like 30 years, 31, nah,
Hmm.
29. 29 years later, after the sequel, after Bogus Adventure, they haven't really gone that far. I
Yeah.
guess just the fall has been mighty or something. I don't really get it. Um, it's funny because I'm remembering at the end of Bogus Adventure, you had all those newspaper articles that came out during the credits, and you even saw like a wave of ups and downs within the group.
Yeah.
Death went solo, and the band broke up, and
Yeah.
Bill and Ted played on the moon or Mars or something like that. So all those random newspaper articles, but some of that carries over into this because we find out
Hmm.
much later in the movie that some of those plot lines and those end credits actually are still fulfilled, and we're seeing the ripple effect or the ramifications of some of that.
Right.
Let's get to the plot of this movie. They get a visit from Kelly, who is Rufus's daughter. Rufus, who was played by George Carlin, who passed away many, many years ago.
Hmm.
I love this actress. I keep forgetting her name, but she's so funny.
Chris, Christian Shaw.
There you go. She's hilarious. I just saw her
Hmm.
in something else too, and I can't remember what it is. I gotta look it up later. Um, but they take Bill and Ted to the future to go talk to, I don't know what these people are called, but
Well, I know the main one was like the great leader,
there you go. Great
something like
leader.
that. Yeah, I don't know if they're all like that or if they're all named that.
Are you digging the design of what the future looks like? I think they could have gone a little bit further with it. Not a
Yeah,
big
yeah.
critic. Not a big critique to me.
No, not at all. I think for given the film itself, I mean, it's something they kind of kept true to the original movie, where again, it wasn't this extravagant, kind of deal, but
That's true.
um, we could have had they could have poured all this money into that or focused on the film itself. Um, but it looked fine. It looked cool.
We got a Rufus cameo. Are you surprised to see the Rufus
That
hologram?
yeah, I was, and my Christina, my wife, actually was like, "Didn't he die?" And I'm like, "Yeah, it's a hologram."
Yeah,
And but I thought that was really really cool to see that.
it
Um,
was really cool.
and
Nice,
Ted
nice
talks to
little
him like he
tribute.
was, yeah, and Ted talks to him like he was real, like he was still there, which is cool in a way, if you think about it.
Yeah.
Kind of keeps
So
him alive.
the great leader tells Bill and Ted that they have 75 minutes to write the song that will save all of reality. And that's so funny to me. And I don't really
Yes.
understand why. But just the fact that they have like less than an hour and a half to put this all together was just hilarious. And the reactions from both characters, even Keanu Reeves is like, wait, what?
Yeah.
And then Alex Winter, who I think his response after that was something like, "Did you say all reality?" Like,
Yeah.
it's so corny, but it's still funny to me. These guys,
And
you
the great
have to
leaders got
be,
so annoyed.
you have to be talented to
Yeah.
say corny lines and nail them to the point that the situation is corny, but not their acting. Like their
Right.
acting is
Right.
spot on. They are these characters, and the situation is corny. But
Yeah.
if their acting was corny, none of this works whatsoever.
Yeah.
Like
Exactly.
you wouldn't be having any fun. Maybe you didn't, but I did.
No, I did.
If
It
viewers
could
were
easily turn
watching this,
into, yeah,
yeah,
and it could easily turn into um like a low budget film that you see on TV, or
sure,
like a friend that made or something like with bad acting like that. Or if you had bad acting. But yeah, I mean, it wasn't, again, these guys, like watching it, it just felt like they haven't, like they've been doing, this is people that they play like on the weekends or something. You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
this is characters that they just keep playing without it getting stale. And I'm just glad, and I know we'll talk more about the film, but I'm just glad it didn't turn into, they did have real life problems, like their marriage, the kids and stuff, but it wasn't like, we saw them like at a dead end job,
yeah,
and then they get the visit or something, you know what I mean? Like some films do that,
yeah,
and that's one thing that I was worried about, because when they mentioned that they were going to have kids in the film, I was like, oh, great, now they're going to show that. They're going to show how their life, their home life is and stuff, and their struggles every day to make ends meet, and then they get a visit from someone. Like they did that to a point, but it worked. You know what I mean? Like we didn't waste time seeing them at an office job and seeing a montage of them raising their kids, stuff like that. You know what I mean? Like
yeah.
we could have easily had that, and I think that would have just drug out the film too much to the point where it wouldn't have had room for the plot. So I think they did a really good job there.
Is that actually, and it again, this is not a big critique. I'm thinking about it now that you mentioned it. Is there any part of you that has an issue with 29 years ago, uh, basically these two guys introduced their sons to us, or at least I don't know. I don't remember if there's a way to twist it to where they introduced daughters because I think they were boys because even they had like little painted mustaches or something, goatees on them. So I think they introduced
Yeah,
boys to the movie audience 29 years ago. They
yeah,
have these daughters, and they look like early 20s, late teens.
yeah.
So even like the movies wouldn't sync up if you tried to say, "Oh no, 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 those were daughters back in '91."
Right.
This is them growing up. Any issue with that at all? It doesn't really matter to you.
Not really. It didn't bother me. I mean, actually, now that you mention, I didn't think about it until right now, but it to me it works. Um, I don't know. It wasn't a big deal for me, and
Yeah.
uh, I'm glad that the kids were not. You could tell they're basically copies of Bill and Ted, and the
Yeah.
fact that they have the opposite names, but they didn't they didn't do it. They didn't go over the top with it, to where they do every single thing exactly like their dads did. Um, and they weren't even, we find out later on they weren't even about the music or as far as the instrument parts. They were more, they're not the performers. They're more of the people who arrange it.
Yeah.
Which I thought was really cool. Nice little twist. Um, but yeah, I can get past the whole gender swap, I guess, if we want to say it like that.
Yeah, you could say that.
I mean, like you said, it could easily be where they were girls at that time. They just did the little mustaches and stuff. So who knows?
We'll go with it. I'm the same as you though. It doesn't really matter to me that they're daughters. It is a little weird that the years don't add up unless that's something they might have changed as well to make the story fit. Just to
Right,
make their ages a little younger, saying that part two came out later than it really did, but
right.
came out in '91. Getting back to the story here, the gentlemen are overwhelmed. You have 75 minutes to save all reality, and
All
Keanu,
reality,
all did you say all reality?
and
Keanu
all the
Reeves'
great leaders.
character
Yes.
comes out with the greatest plan of them all to go into the future and find themselves after the song had already been written. And I'm going to hurt my head later on trying to come out with why this timeline works and why it doesn't. I've been so set in the world of Endgame that time travel to me is only makes sense now in the world of Endgame and
Yeah.
nowhere else. So we can talk about that in a second. But this was a hilarious line to me. Bill looks at Ted after his idea and says to him, "Ted, you have had many counterintuitive ideas over the years, but this is by far the most counterintuitivist of them all."
Oh, I was cracking up when I heard that.
Alex Winter's a gem. He's so good.
Yes.
Alex
I,
is so good.
I want to know how much of the film was them and how much of the film was written, because I mean that's a
Oh yeah,
genius line right there.
it's so
That is
awesome.
a Oh my God.
Oh
But
man,
again, it's like, are they airheads? Are like, I don't know. It's just so funny. It just
it's so
works.
good. It really does. And like I said, it's these two guys. These lines are being delivered on point. It's
Yeah.
the situation is corny, not their acting. Their acting is spot on. And if there's any little
Yeah.
bit of variance, or if there's any a little bit of it, if a little bit of it is off, their
Right.
delivery, their timing, then the whole scene is ruined. But
Hmm.
it's working. It's working really well. Hats off to them. Hats off to the director for just dealing with these scenes so well. They have to be well executed. It's not a big stunt. It's not a big action
Yeah.
sequence, but it's because the whole entire focus is on the dialogue between these two characters most of the
Yeah.
movie. it has to be executed well. And if it's not, it falls apart. It just falls flat. None of these jokes would work. And I'm going to get into it more because now they travel to the future. I like the time travel experience. That's a step
Hmm.
up from what we got in the past. I do like the special effects. And the
Yeah.
first future selves they meet is 2 years later. They're playing at a bar and grill or something. And
Yeah.
it's just so funny because 2 years later, they haven't gotten very far. Their marriages fell apart and they're avoiding. This is going to be tough to talk about. Future Bill and Ted are avoiding present Bill and Ted, and all of these little quips, all of these little lines, you have to pay close attention. They're hilarious.
Yeah.
Future Bill and Ted take off like outside of the building. They come back, and Bill says the line, "Don't look at us. No, no, no. Don't look, and they won't see us, dude." It's so That's a stupid line. But to me, I'm trying to think like, is he saying that because they've already experienced past Bill and Ted?
Yeah.
If he's giving them commands like, don't look, they won't see us because they're already aware of like what's gonna happen. So
Right.
there's a whole nother element to where future Bill and Ted are always going to know and experience what past Bill and Ted did.
Yeah.
So if he tells future Ted, don't look and they won't see us, to me, it's like, oh, of course he knows that because he understands what past Bill and Ted.
Right.
This is getting rough. This is getting rough. Every move they make, every decision they go
Yeah.
through. So to me, it's like it's funny because
Well, just like,
there's this underlying element of they've experienced
yeah,
everything they have.
like even just fast forward or rewind a bit when they finish the song, and they start to dip out through the back because they remember, that they're there. And then even fast forward a little bit when they go to the house and they're trying to escape from the house,
Yeah,
and they're like, they already know where they're going to go, right? They're chasing themselves around and they already know where they're going to go. And then they're like, oh, let's do that one move that we're not going to remember,
yeah,
and what do? They put buckets on their heads so that future self won't remember what happened. And they even said, oh, I thought you, what was it like? I thought you said that we weren't going to remember it or something like that. Like they ended up finding them, but like at first I didn't get it, which I feel dumb saying that. But now, but then after kind of replaying in my mind, I was like, okay, yeah, that totally makes sense, actually.
totally makes sense.
You know,
It totally makes
um,
sense, and it's great because the first two films tried to make sense in
yeah,
how time travel worked, the
right,
mechanisms of which the laws in which time travel worked, which you could probably teach a whole class on the mechanisms or the laws in which Bill and Ted are trying
hmm,
to introduce the way time travel works because they're always changing elements by thinking of things that are going to happen.
right.
Not even going to try to talk about it right now. Let's just
Not
keep
even
going.
no.
Let's just keep going.
Uh-uh.
So I do like that we're trying to learn a little bit. A little bit. They're not trying to give us too much, but
Yeah,
they try to do it later. But they are trying to create some sort of realism by introducing like rules to the game,
right.
rules of the movie and time travel. So you skipped ahead. They leave 2 year future Bill and Ted. They go to like 20-year future Bill and Ted, and they
Hmm.
find them in this house. Their costumes are great. Bill looks like Robert Plant. He's got the
Yeah.
hair. He's got the bandana. He looks amazing, and he sounds
Yeah.
amazing. Why do you guys have British accents? Ted's got this
Hey, and
great hat on, like
yeah,
not Axl Rose. This guy right here, I keep forgetting his name.
Slash. Yeah,
Slash hat
yeah,
on. Is that Sash? Go on.
What's that?
Oh, Sash is on the bottom. My bad.
Yeah.
So they look great and they sound great because they have these fake, lame British accents.
And
Future
their
Ted's
explanation,
minion.
though,
Go
the
ahead.
explanation for the accents was amazing. Like, but again, it goes back to they knew they were going to be coming at
Yeah,
some point, and so they had to come up with some kind of story to that they know would be believable, that they know that their present or past selves would believe without questioning.
yeah.
Um, Go on, continue.
I really wanted to know what song they were listening to. It was obviously a
Yes,
Dave Grohl written song.
yeah.
Most likely Foo Fighter
I don't
song.
know.
I really want to know which
Yeah.
one it was. I don't know. I don't know why. I'm so interested on like what song they presented because Bill and Ted had the best reaction. They were like brought to
Hmm.
tears. Most beautiful song ever is probably like Everlong or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I really want to know what it was. Anyways, as present, Bill and Ted are leaving. They run to Dave Grohl. What are you doing in my house? And they like lock him outside.
Of his own house.
And future Bill and
Oh,
Ted start taking their wigs off.
yes.
Future Ted has like the biggest beer gut I've ever seen.
Yeah.
But even the prosthetics, like this all looks
Hmm.
really good. We'll get into some more of that later.
Yes, for
It is
sure.
hilarious. And then you talked about them escaping, putting buckets on their head. That's genius. I
Yeah.
love that they're doing again, trying to explain the mechanisms and the rules about how the future, the past, the memories of each other
Yeah.
work. If they would do that more often, I would absolutely love it. Well, we didn't get to see a whole lot of it, but just stuff like that. That's
Hmm.
actually things that I really hook on to. Really, really like to hear
Yeah.
and to see happen in the movie. These
Well, and
guys,
especially being fans of like the Flash show and
yeah,
like you were saying, Endgame, and Infinity War. So, um, well, I guess Endgame, but stuff like that. Not that we have an idea of how the stuff works, but it's easier to easier to accept, so to speak. You know, because they're not trying to add more to it and make it more complicated, but they're sort of like maybe fixing it in a sense,
yeah.
fine tuning some rules, if that makes sense. Um, yeah,
I skipped one of my favorite lines, and I want to go back to it. So, 2 year future Bill and Ted, they're playing at like a bar and grill. It's a restaurant or something.
yeah,
And present Bill and Ted are like, "Why are you guys still playing this joint? You wrote the song and you saved the world. You guys should be rock stars, right?" And future Ted's response is, "Us being here is humorously ironic."
yes. I forgot about that line.
So good. Bill says, "Do you
Oh
believe us?"
man,
Right afterwards, "Do you believe us?"
yeah, do you believe
No.
it?
Anyway,
Oh man,
getting
and he
back
was
to
such
it.
a dick to himself too.
He
He kept
was.
wanting to, whatever, present, past Ted kept wanting to fight future Ted because he was being such a dick.
Yeah.
Oh
And
man,
that pays off later too. Don't
yes,
forget
yeah,
about
yeah,
that. Okay, so these guys don't work out. They go into the future again, but this time they nearly escape what is maybe my biggest criticism of this movie, the worst looking future robot
oh
in
yeah,
just about any movie. But the robot does take out Ted's dad by accident. And
mm-hmm,
again, this movie's not trying to take itself too seriously. I don't know what
yeah.
I would have preferred, but this looked like a CW robot or a Power Rangers. Not even that. I think
It
Power Ranger robots would look a little bit better than this.
it did look like watching it. Like when they first revealed it, I'm like, oh cool, whatever, robot, and I expected it to be robotic.
Yeah,
Um, and the only thing I can think of is it is built from the future, so it is meant to maybe look more humanoid.
Okay.
more human, sort of maybe like a cyborg type deal. But um, I would agree. Like looking, when I was kind of there's some close-ups of like his gloves it looked just like it looked like a glove, that they put on. Um, the fact that I think you could like when he would blink, it's like why would a robot need to blink? Like stuff
You're
like
right.
that. Yeah,
You're
like you
right.
said, it's minor things like that, but at the same time, it's not taking themselves seriously.
The
And I actually
only
looked up well, real quick. I looked
Go
up
for
who
it.
was playing. What was it? Dennis Kill. What was his name again?
Caleb.
And he said it like, yeah,
Dennis
Dennis Killer
Caleb
something.
McCoy?
Yeah, there you go, Killer McCoy. Dennis Killer McCoy. So the guy that played Zaz in Gotham,
Yes.
I don't know if you saw that show. So he played him like the voice was bothering me. I'm like, this guy sounds so familiar. Um, but apparently he's a really funny guy. Like I've seen him in bloopers and like just all kinds of stuff. And apparently he's like a really funny guy. And so once I found out who it was, I could appreciate him just a little bit more. But yeah, at the same time, I'm like, come on.
I do like the actor.
Yeah.
He's been in a lot of stuff. He also was on oh god, he was on Gotham as Zaz, and then he also was on the Flash show.
He came on the Flash as I don't know what his name was, but he was like a gas,
He was another villain. Flash has
yeah,
had
some
a million villains.
poison villain or something. Yeah.
Yeah, so I do like the actor, and I'm trying to figure out what I would have preferred. And I would have. I mean, I was gonna say this. The only thing that's looked worse than this robot was Red Tornado on the CW Supergirl series. Oh
Yes.
my God.
Yeah, I would agree.
You had
I
one
would,
job.
but not by much too.
Not
That's the
by
thing.
not by
That's
much,
the
but
thing.
yeah.
Yeah. So
It was two steps up. Not one step up, but it was two steps up.
yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I don't like the design that much. Um I get that they wanted him to be have some sort of level of humor, but I think you still could have done that without having the humanoid features, having him
Right.
have an exposed jaw or blinking eyes, like you had said,
Yeah.
exposed wrists or fingers and all that. Um, I'm trying to think of another. I can't think of any other robots right now. I mean, look, C3PO is a robot who doesn't
Hmm.
have human exposed features, a jawline that moves or eyes that blink or
But
anything, but he's still
I will
funny.
say you're talking about Star Wars budget versus Bill and Ted 3 budget.
You know
But
what? I think they put all of their money into the special effects of like the time travel,
yeah.
of the sky opening up towards the end.
Hmm.
Like all of that's spot on, looking good.
Yeah.
This is the only thing that's like really, really cheap looking. And
Yeah.
again, that's my biggest critique, and it's not even like a make or break part for me.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So
And they because you know what, and I know again, I know we'll get to this, and I'm kind of jumping it, but it works out once they do end up going to hell. It works out because they talk about how did you die? Like you're a robot. Like why are you here? And even one of the demons makes a comment about it too. So like things like that, it's sort of making fun of them at the same time. Like making fun of themselves.
do you though?
It's like
Here's the thing. Why does he need to be a robot?
exactly, yeah.
His weapon can be anything. His weapon could be a gun. I mean, look,
Hmm.
if you go for just a cyborg look, right? Um, like Arnold Schwarzenegger, for reference,
Right.
he looks fully human, but inside he's a cyborg. That's why his behavior is odd at times.
Yeah.
You could go full cyborg, lose the robot
Yeah.
bulkiness and all that. And I'm not really sure what you would lose in that regard. Like what changes the story? And there might be something I'm not thinking of. But other than like towards the end of the movie, he forms into like a rocket and takes off with Kelly.
Yeah.
Like beyond that, why does he need to be a robot? Just because he's from the future? He could be a
Right.
cyborg. lose the getup, um, still be mechanical internally, but at least it doesn't come off as cheap, and you can
Yeah.
still get away with doing all the same jokes. To me,
My only thought behind it, and I totally agree. My only thought behind it is maybe they had an idea, and again, it could just come down to budget. Maybe
you're
they thought,
right.
okay, let's run with this. We have this idea for a great robot, and maybe they have concept art of what he would look like, and it would have been maybe closer to a cyborg, but turns out, you know what, we spent most of our money on all the other special effects. Now this is what we can work with,
Yeah.
and unfortunately they ran with that. Um, in a way, I would prefer this over that's clearly just a guy in a jacket or a guy in an outfit who's claiming to be a cyborg. You know what I mean? Because like you would at least have to act somehow robotic, like Terminator. You know what I mean? So
I think you
it's
still
like,
can.
yeah, but I mean, it's kind of a give and take. It's like, do we have possibly the bad acting, and like he's clearly just a guy that they kind of wrote in, or hey, we have this really terrible looking robot because we ran out of money. At least that's what I'm thinking. Like, I don't know, but
Here's where more of the money went to. So when they leave the second future set of Bill and Ted who broke into Dave Grohl's house, they go to the third future pair of Bill and Ted who are now in the state penitentiary because they were arrested 5 years before for breaking into Dave Grohl's house. And the
yeah,
prosthetics, because they have these
holy cow,
big body building prison bodies, the prosthetics are good. Their prosthetics are
yeah,
better than the robot. They look
for
great.
real, yeah,
And might I add that, of course, they're a lot more aggressive in their demeanor. They're a lot more confrontational. They're already threatening to like take the phone booth and take the song to save all reality because
yeah,
they're sick and pissed off with their own lives. The wives have clearly left these two already, and the two future Bill and Teds at this point are hilarious, just in the delivery of some very basic lines.
yeah,
Even when Bill is telling present Bill and Ted, "This is our plan. We're gonna take the phone booth. We're gonna take the song, and we're gonna go get our princesses." And then future Ted says, "You got to watch this again because it's so funny to me." Bill says we're gonna go and save the world, and then future Ted with his beard and mohawk goes, "In reality."
yeah.
It's so
So
good.
aggressive doing that, yeah.
It's so good. The muscle suits are awesome. I love this
They looked
part.
insane.
The part
I
that
even told I told Christina, I was like, not gonna lie, like those bodies look like those could easily be, how they superimpose somebody's head or onto a body. Like they could have easily do that, like, and it just looks immaculate. But no, those are clearly prosthetics, and they look great. Remy, funny thing is, Remy even said, because we've been playing Street Fighter, he said that Ted looked like Zangief, just like
yay.
a leaner Zangief, and I was like, hey, you're right, he does.
That's what I kind
That's
of look
funny.
like too. I'm gonna leave my shirt on for
Mm.
this podcast
Oh, okay,
episode.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry to our viewers. I'm not showing you my own muscular body. Okay. Most of this is good. My second critique, until they start, I'm gonna use air quotes, beating up the robot. Jesus, man. At least make this
Yeah,
look like you're beating up the robot. Some of these guys
yes,
aren't connecting. They're like punching air.
yeah,
This is a movie. We get it, but you're supposed to like make it look somewhat realistic in any sort of
yeah,
movie. In Power Ranger movies, when you kick somebody, it looks good. It looks like you're really kicking or punching. Funny tidbit: Jason David Frank did a commentary during one of his meet and greets for the Power Ranger movie he did, and one of the stunt
Hmm.
guys actually told him to kick him really hard, and
Oh,
David Frank didn't want to do it. He goes, "I'm not gonna do that. Like, I'm kind of a trained professional. I'm not gonna do that."
yeah.
The guy goes, "No, no, no, kick me really hard." And there's a communication problem because they're wearing the masks of like putties or whatever. The birds, and
Yeah.
so he can't hear him very well. So the miscommunication resulted in Jason David Frank really kicking the shit out of this guy in the chest and like
Wow.
knocked all the
Yeah.
hair out of him, and he like fell on the floor. Anyways, so in other movies, and that was actually a real take, by the way. They kept it in the movie, the real clip.
Nice.
Um, in any other movies, even as we're just acting, these punches are
Yeah.
seeming real. So the part where they're playfully punching and dabbing the robot in the face.
Playfully.
Oh, I'm just like, come
There was
on.
one out of that scene. There was one, yeah, that I noticed. It was like on the bottom of the screen. There was
Yeah.
like a guy's, fist, and you can tell he's going slow and not connecting at all, and not even getting close to the robot. Like, yeah, so I agree. I mean, that small, there's a few seconds of them attacking the robot, beating them up, but it looks so bad.
Are you buying this subplot with the princesses going throughout time? I'm not even caring about it not too much.
Not at all. There's times where I forgot that they were doing that. And like I get why they were doing it, but there was times like when they show up at the prison and they showed up. What was it, outside of the therapy office, stuff like that. Like I don't know. I just kind of forgot about it. But then they just come together at the end and all that, which is cool. But yeah, like there was. I don't know if there was a need for that. You know.
Yeah,
Um,
I think you can just get by with not having the princesses have to do too much, or screw it, make them get captured by like a future Bill and Ted or something,
yeah.
or send them
Well,
the
but
robot. The
that
robot
happened.
sends the robot can send them to hell too. And in
Yeah.
the process of saving Ted's dad, they can also save the princesses, and they also have to
Yeah.
save Thea and Billy, who answered the question, why does the robot go after them to begin with? Thea and Billy are going through time, picking up historical
Yeah.
musicians and figures. Mozart, I was going to say
Jimi
Jimmy Page.
Hendrix
Jimi
and
Hendrix.
Louis Armstrong.
Yeah, Louis
What were you gonna
Armstrong.
say?
I was going to say Jimmy Page.
Oh.
Jimi Hendrix. Louis Armstrong. And so the robot confronts them and lasers them, and he immediately regrets his decision. Oops. Oops. Uh, uh,
And he
uh.
even says something like regret, instant regret, something like that.
But I'm
Um,
trying to figure out why this is even a thing. Like, I understand it adds a little bit more to the story, but
yeah.
his entire objective is to just track down Bill and Ted only, and instead he knows he's lasering Billy and
You,
Thea.
you know what? Now that I think about it, and maybe this is why there's so much human side to him, or human like that, making that mistake. Wasn't that guy the one that sort of made him? Wasn't he kind of controlling him? Like,
So he
remember they?
does apologize when it
Yeah.
happens, but we never find out like why it actually happened. He just says,
Okay.
I'm sorry to the mother of Kelly,
Yeah.
the great leader. But we
Okay.
never get like reasons why this is even a thing.
Because
Maybe
yeah,
he did and I
you would
skipped over
think
it.
you would think being a cyborg or whatever, a robot, that he would have an objective and he would stick to it, not make those kind of mistakes. So that's why, like, I was thinking right now, like maybe the guy was controlling him, and he kind of got startled thinking it was them, Bill and Ted, and shot him. But I don't know. But it gave them a reason for it drove it a little bit. It gave Bill and Ted a reason to go to hell and have to deal, make amends with death. Um, it was just the point of getting from point A to point B was kind of rocky,
Okay,
you
so
know?
yeah, the reason why Bill and Ted even need to go to hell is because Thea and Billy are there, and
Right.
the tension that it creates is that Bill and Ted have to destroy the thumb drive with the song on it in order just to get to hell, which they kind of take out of the equation because Dennis just ends up shooting himself. So like you don't even need to break the thumb drive.
Yeah.
Little
See,
things.
and that's
Little things.
see, we can't really that's why I don't want to like stress about it because
Not a stress.
again,
Not a stress.
that's it's sort of a plot hole, I guess, if you think about it. Like again, it comes back to he's a robot. He has these protocols, these programs. If he's set to only kill Bill and Ted, if they what is it? If they don't get the thumb drive, kill them.
Yeah.
Yet he accidentally kills Billy and Thea, and then he refuses to kill Bill and Ted because they have the thumb drive. And now that they destroyed it, he's just going to self-destruct.
It's like we say accidentally, but it was an intentional thing. Like Bill and
Right.
Ted's not here. I'm gonna kill you anyways. The only
Yeah.
thing, the only good thing that it does is it gets Dennis, who, by the way, we forgot to mention his name after Kelly's ex-boyfriend.
Her mom was such a dick.
You really left my ex-boyfriend, mother?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was hilarious. That was good. The good
Yeah.
thing that it does do is it gets Dennis to hell too. But
Yeah.
look, it's again not a make or break for me, but I think there's still a better way to write that to where
Right.
it doesn't create this counterproductive decision making done by Dennis as well as Bill and Ted. You don't have to break the thumb drive if he's gonna
Right.
laser himself anyways. Like killing Ted's dad, that made total sense.
Right.
Bill and Ted jumped out of the way. Ted's dad was the collateral damage. Makes total sense. Okay, the
Right.
good thing it does do, it gets Dennis to hell, in which now he's starting to bring out more of his human side.
So he's starting to evolve.
We'll just assume that it's
Yeah.
due to the internal issues that he's having because he's starting to like malfunction in sort of ways. So I'll go with
Yes.
that. Let's just say that's
There you
what's
go.
happening, and he's
Yeah.
becoming a little bit more human. And I love, I love the part where Bill and Ted find Thea and Billy. They're all talking, and Dennis comes out and he's like, "Hey guys, I just want to say I'm really sorry." Nobody wants to hear him, so Bill just starts clapping. Like, yeah, okay, Dennis, good job.
Yeah. Just to shut him up. Oh my
Good job.
God.
Good job, Dennis. All
That was
right.
great.
That was
Yeah.
great. Great speech. It's like, we don't have time. We had 75 minutes. We're
Yeah.
down to like 30. We don't have time for this stupid robot.
Yes.
Why do they even allow him to come with him?
Um,
Anyways, we meet
but
Death.
that's what that was one of the things. Yeah, and we meet Death. Same actor.
Yes.
They could have easily gotten somebody else. He could have said no. He was in the movie, what, maybe total of 10 minutes or 15, 20 minutes at the
Sure.
most of this one. And like they could have easily just gotten somebody else, but they got the same actor. And after all these years, he was just so bitter with Bill and Ted.
He's so
Am I
bitter.
too close for your restraining order? They put restraining order on Death against Death.
You were playing 40-minute bass solos. I was in the groove.
I was in the groove.
I was in the groove. I don't know. I can't sound like him that well, but
Yeah.
I was in the groove. It was so good. He was so good. The banter between the three of them is so good.
Yeah, for
I
sure.
love that he has all these like wild stallions memorabilia everywhere. And
Yep.
I don't know if you saw it right before, a few hours ago, before we started filming this episode. The actor did a behind the scenes of his lair in character. So
Oh, wow.
it's Death doing like a MTV Cribs episode of his lair. I didn't get to watch the whole
That's
thing
awesome.
because I was preparing
Yeah.
for this. But he's like, this piano and there's like this grand piano and it's like has burn marks all over it and whatever else. He goes, this piano, I love it. I play it all the time. I got it from John Lennon. He comes by every now and then.
Oh my God.
So
Oh, that's
if you're
awesome.
watching this, listening to this, go to our Facebook page, Countdown to the
Yeah.
Geekcast. On our Facebook page is the video of Death doing a MTV Crib style behind the scenes of his lair, where he's looking at all the memorabilia and like talking about it. So
I'm
hilarious.
gonna have to check that out. I saw that, but I didn't know. Like I saw, the article heading, but I didn't know that's what it was. So I'm gonna have to check that out for sure. That's funny.
Okay, so Thea and Billy convince Death, as well as her fathers, to have a reunion and bringing them all out of hell. Let's rock! And then Dennis going, that part where you said let's rock, I liked it because
Yeah.
I made me feel like I wanted to rock. And Death was like, you cannot just rock, or whatever he says.
Yeah. And
Oh
he's
man.
already annoyed by him too. Like I loved it.
Damn it.
See,
Okay, so
like it
Dennis is
worked and it
good.
didn't work. Yeah.
Dennis is good like after they get to hell, but
Yeah.
everything before that's kind of I'm iffy on it. I'm not
Yeah.
following everything 100%. Okay, so immediately when they get out of hell, they land on the highway mile marker 46, MP 46. We
Hmm.
find out this is the location. They have a drummer, a flute player from Japan, I believe, Mozart, Jimi Hendrix, Louis Armstrong. Did I forget anybody? Billy Thea.
And a drummer that they went to the caveman. That kind of
So
bothered me too. I was like, really? The of all the drummers in the world
me
throughout
too.
history, you went to that far back to get a caveman drummer.
Right. They could have gotten anyone, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and it would have made more sense. It seemed like they were trying to go further and further back in time. But
Yeah.
that doesn't even yeah, it does a little bit because no, it doesn't even make sense because they actually went to Jimi Hendrix first, then
Hmm.
Louis. So they kind of went
And then back to Jimi
oh,
Hendrix
we're back
to
to Jimi.
convince
Okay,
him.
so it kind of does make a little bit of sense
And,
because
and then
Mozart
they
before,
picked up
but
Mozart. Yeah.
they keep going like further and further back through time, so that makes a little bit of sense. But
Yeah.
no one's saying you have to do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
You could just go get John Bonham, Led Zeppelin drummer.
Right.
You can go
Like,
get Keith Moon. You know?
well, and it makes sense to me, I guess, in a way, because if you think about it, again, the other movies they did the same thing where they got somebody from each uh, decade or whatever every few years. Um, so it kind of makes sense, but at the same time, I'm like, a caveman, like really, like,
Yeah.
are they going to understand you? You know what I mean? Like you don't have time at this point to work that out.
Can't you just get Travis Barker? He's not going to say no.
Hey, yeah, he could have been on the highway. They got Kid Cudi of all people. Like
Yeah.
they could have easily gotten Travis. You know what I mean? Like,
Who they didn't even pick up. He's just being thrown around through space and
yes,
time. And he's also a genius, apparently. So, yeah, could have totally
I
done it.
love that actually.
Right?
I love that because, I mean, for one thing, the fact that I mean, we don't know him or anything, so he could easily be a genius like on this level. But
Sure.
at the same time, of all the people that happens to land where they are, it's Kid Cudi who happens to be this level of this genius level there, um, and it worked out. And again, it helped bridge the last few minutes of the movie and quickly resolve what they needed to do or to get their resolution and everything. So I thought it was hilarious, but at the same time, I'm like, I mean, by this point, they should have had it figured out. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. But
You
again, it
know?
was a joke that worked for me, and it
Yeah,
sounds like it worked for you too. I will also
yeah,
say that we did skip over them meeting old Bill and Ted over at
Yes.
greener
It,
pastures, something pastures.
something like that. Yeah.
And a few interesting things to note. Again, Alex Winter is a freaking boss being an old guy. He's got like the eyes just they look
Yeah.
weak and he looks disheveled and just his delivery of everything is great. The prosthetics,
Yeah.
the aging of them, the makeup. This is fantastic stuff.
I'm
This
telling you,
all
this is
looks
where their money
incredible.
went.
That's exactly where the money went.
Yeah.
This is also the moment when the princesses decide to leave Bill and Ted and go throughout time with the much younger princesses and
Yeah.
find a reality that they actually love their husbands in. The
Yeah.
only
That they were happy or something like that. Yeah.
Now the only thing that would make sense is that they wanted the young princesses to come to the conclusion that they should stay in in their own reality, and that they do love their Bill and Ted unconditionally,
Right. Right.
which would mean that the old princesses have such a horrible marriage that they wanted to fix it by having the young princesses realize it, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. I think that
None of
makes
that is
sense.
spelled out to us. None of that
Right.
is spelled out to us ever. We never even get to talk to the old princesses, right?
Yeah.
There's like
Not at
no
all.
dialogue from them whatsoever. And one line of just like, this is why we're doing this, to help you
Yeah.
understand you're in love already and you don't need any other version of your husbands. Now, if we get
Hmm.
that, it helps. One, two
Yeah.
lines helps. But old Bill, old Ted, these guys are hilarious. I more so love young Ted talking to old Ted, and young Ted's like, "You're always acting weird with me," and old Ted's like, "Well, whenever I looked at you, I saw myself," and he's like, "I've always felt that way too." I've
And that's
always felt.
genius writing right there. That's what I'm talking about. Like, holy crap. Like, I
Oh
was
man,
cracking up
yeah,
almost to the point where I was like tearing up because it was so funny.
it was
And,
so funny.
even Bill saying his goodbyes to old Bill. It's like, dude, that's you in like 30, 40 years. Like
Yeah,
you don't have to tell him bye.
no.
Oh my
So
God. But
that was really funny, and they looked
yeah,
great. They looked
yeah,
great,
for sure.
and yeah. So back to mile marker 46. Um, they don't have a song, and they see their daughters standing in front of these musicians over history, and they finally figure it out. They finally figure it out that Preston Logan is not themselves, but it's actually their
Yeah,
daughters. Cool twist. I don't know if I needed it, but it is a cool twist.
yeah.
It's a little bit predictable, I think, but it's
Hmm.
still cool to incorporate that. And they're not saying that Bill and Ted aren't a part of this plan or this
Right.
moment. Bill and Ted still have to distribute instruments across all time by hitting the infinity button on the phone booth.
Yeah.
And so they literally physically hand instruments to every single person throughout time and history and
And
have them play along with Billy and Thea and this cast of musicians. It
and
is
Ted
this. Go ahead.
Ted even says, "Oh, by the way, I'm an Infinity clone," and he just like runs off. He runs off when he's handing out the instruments.
Yeah.
Um, but I'll say, yeah, like you said, it was definitely predictable. But I like that Bill and Ted were still part of it,
Yeah.
and because they even heard themselves when they played the song.
You're right.
They heard themselves like, okay, like who's that playing? And they're like, that's you. Um, so we knew they had to be part of it, but also I like that it wasn't. Um, it was kind of a fast paced realization, like putting it all together and stuff, but at the same time it wasn't, if that makes sense. Like they had already kind of mentioned earlier in the film that Thea and Billy are more of the producer style and not the actual performer.
Yeah.
So they have an understanding of what needs to be done and how it should sound. So I thought that was really cool, you know, like they had minutes, literally minutes to get
Yeah.
this song made, you know. So I thought it was cool. They did a great job, and I'm glad there was a convenience Guitar Center trailer
Trailer,
with not
truck,
with not
instruments.
just some instruments, but like everything that they needed, you
Yeah.
know. So I thought that was awesome.
Nostalgia moment. Kid Cudi at this point yells, "Station!"
Yeah,
from the Martians from
awesome, man.
Bogus Adventure. Where are the
Yeah,
Martians at?
dude. Yeah, they should have mentioned. They really should have talked about
Where are the robots?
something. Yeah,
Okay, so the reason why we have a robot from the future is because we had robots from part two. But the robots from part two were freaking robots and they looked amazing.
yeah.
Why would they just not create the same robots?
Let's not worry about it.
No, but I'm
Let's just
serious.
take it
Like,
for what it is. Yeah,
if they would have sent the robots from part two, right? Robot Bill, Robot Ted, and still they program them to kill them or whatever. Like, that's freaking
yeah,
amazing. And then I guess even if they have a robotic jawline, not a human jawline that
right.
moves while they speak, maybe you could still pull that off with doing all the jokes in hell
Yeah.
and the
Oh
Let's
yeah, yeah,
Rock
for
and all
sure.
that. But the robots from
And
part
and,
two were incredible.
and that would be more believable than what's his name, Dennis Kelly McCormick. I forgot what his name was, but
Dennis
besides Dennis,
Caleb McCoy.
Caleb McCoy. There you go. Besides him ending in hell, and you know they sort of again they started making fun like, well, why? How did you die? How are you in hell? All that stuff, but I think it would have landed better having more robotic looking robots, you know,
Yeah,
than this guy who's has to be a guy in a jumpsuit with some prosthetics on.
I'm down, man. I would have much preferred that if they
Yeah,
would have brought the robots back from part two and then just give them an upgraded or more modern look or futuristic look.
yeah.
I'm totally down with that. All right. So Thea, Billy, play the song. Ted,
Hmm.
Bill, give out instruments throughout time in history, and they save all reality. All reality. So
I'm
it
gonna need
works.
you to do that at least once per show.
Done.
Somehow incorporate it. Yeah,
Done. So it all works out. They save the day, and the song's pretty good. It's not as
yeah,
good as the one from part two, but it is pretty good.
yeah,
So I'm down with it. I'll go
yeah.
with it. It's fine. Did you watch the end credit scene?
I was gonna ask you. Yes.
Okay, good, because
Holy
I didn't
cow.
tell you
Yeah,
to, and you're always the
yeah.
guy that's like, "Oh, movie's over, off
It's happened like twice that I've done that.
twice a month."
Oh, a few, yeah.
You're
I
always you're always
purposely,
mad, like, "What? There was an end credit scene?" Yeah, man. Just because it's not Marvel doesn't
yeah,
mean they won't have one. All right, you talk about it.
yeah,
Go for it.
yeah. I purposely, well, so they had sort of what two scenes, I guess, in a way, like the credits. As the credits are rolling, they have clips of fans playing music, which actually Alex Winter put out some sort of not a contest, but put out like notice that he wants people to film themselves playing instruments. I don't know if they had a specific song in mind or what, but like to play a song and they were gonna incorporate into the film, and so that's where that came from.
Nice.
Um, so that was really cool, and I saw a few people that I recognized besides the ones who were not big celebrities or what. Al was one of them for sure. He was there playing the accordion. It was a quick clip of him. Um, oh man, I can't even think of who else, but there's a bunch of different people there, so that was really cool. And you can tell they were just having fun.
Yeah.
But the actual end credit scene is the future. The elderly, the old Bill and Ted want to see if they still got it. They just want to jam one more time, and they do. They slowly get up. They slowly get to their guitars and their amps,
We still
crank it
got it.
up. We still got it. And man, they jam out. For a few seconds. I don't even know how long it was, and they get out of breath. They high five each other, and poor Bill.
I need to sit down.
And poor Bill like hurt his arm just from the high five.
There you go.
So he's sitting down, and I mean, it's a great scene. Um, yeah, I don't know. It was a really cool. I feel like that was added. Like it has nothing to do with the film. It wasn't, and it doesn't set it up for another film or anything like that. But it was fun. It was just a fun, nice little addition to have there. So I thought that
All
was really
right.
cool.
Here
Yeah.
comes a part of the Geekcast show where we give out our Geekcast rating. A rating scale is
No.
1 to 5. 1 being the absolute worst movie you can imagine. Let's say Terminator 3, Rise of the Machines. 5 being the best time travel movie. You could choose yourself, Back to the Future 1 or Back to the Future 2. Definitely not Back to the Future 3. But you
No.
decide which is your number 5, your rated 5 film. So Bill and Ted, Face the Music, Jericho. What is your rating for Bill and Ted 3?
So I'm gonna go in the middle. I'm gonna go at 3.5,
All right.
only because even though I greatly, immensely enjoyed the film, it was awesome. It was hilarious. It was everything I could have wanted for this film. But the robot kind of messed me up. Like we talked about, the whole sort of plot holes with Thea and Billy having to go to hell. Um, little minor things like that made my score lower.
All right.
Otherwise, if it wasn't for that, or even if it just wasn't for the robot, then I would have maybe scored it like a 4. But yeah, I would say so 3.5.
All right. So 1 to 5. I am actually giving my score pretty close to you, 3.75. For a lot of
Okay.
the same reasons you did. I think most of the story is really good, not great. I think you could probably pull out a better story for these two guys.
Yeah.
They're acting is spot on. There's not one
Hmm.
scene where this is not Ted Theodore Logan and this is not Bill S. Preston Esquire. These guys hit every beat, every note, the cadences in their voice, their tones,
Yeah.
their deliveries, their timing. These two guys nail it. They carry this movie, which should be just an absurd, corny movie that nobody enjoys. But it's enjoyable because these two can absolutely kill it in these
Hmm.
roles. Like I said, some of the there's some things we picked out where it's just like, come on, you got to try a little harder than that. And
Yeah.
robot design, yeah, definitely, I think you could have improved on that. But I'm giving mine a 3.75, and that brings our countdown to the Geekcast score to a 3.6. Not too shabby, as I always say.
Hmm. Yeah.
And that'll do it for this episode of the Countdown City Geekcast. Just wanted to say before we end today's show that over the weekend we did hear the news that Chadwick Boseman had passed away. He was
Hmm.
in a 4-year-long battle with colon cancer, and he was very secretive about it. Not even his Marvel castmates knew about it. That's to show you how secretive he was regarding it, and to the point that was still filming movies and never decided to take a break, never decided to skip out on anything that I guess he was committed to. So that shows you a little bit of his professionalism, or that shows you a lot about his professionalism. Outside of being an actor, you can find numerous stories of Chadwick creating relationships, friendships with children in hospitals, visiting them
Hmm.
frequently, He received there's posts from the St. Jude Center about Chadwick visiting children in the hospitals. We will miss him dearly, and he meant a lot to his fans, to children around the world, and his character of T'Challa as Black Panther. I don't think we'll ever have um, someone resonate so much with an entire community for the first time like that ever again. I mean, this is
Right.
on the level of like Christopher Reeve for the first time being Superman on the big screen. I think that's the
Hmm.
sort of level of impact he had on several millions of people around the world. Hopefully, we can all agree on that and just say he will be missed dearly. And we'll have another episode probably later on this week where we dive a little bit more into the career of one Chadwick Boseman. But we just want to say our thoughts and prayers with his family, his wife, all of his friends, and all of his fans. Jericho, anything else?
No, I mean, I know we'll talk about it later on when we have another episode, but um, yeah, I mean, it's definitely a shocking news, and um, I didn't. I was actually I saw it when we were watching the movie, so I didn't believe it at first, and
So
but
did
it's
I.
just one of those, yeah,
Yeah.
it's just one of those things where it showed the integrity and how he didn't use his fame or anything, to spread word about it. He didn't do the whole St. Jude thing because he was famous and all that stuff. Like he used his character to bring light to these children's lives and stuff. And um, but he didn't say like, "Oh, I'm sick, I can," or what have you. And I mean, he was strong until the end, and that's one of those things. I've lost family to cancer, and it's not an easy thing to see them go through. And um, the fact that he was able to do this and with stage 4, I mean, that's very, that's super aggressive, and just takes so much out of you. And so it just says a lot about who he is as a person, um, to not, I don't want to say play victim, but to not have excuses or show I can't do this because I'm sick or I can't do that. Like he kept on.
Yeah.
Um, so if that's not something to keep you motivated in anything that you do, I don't know what is. But it's definitely hard, and um, I just hope fans remember him outside of Black Panther as well. I mean, he played a lot of powerful characters, and
That's right.
um,
Jackie Robinson, Thurgood
yeah,
Marshall,
yeah. I mean, two of my
James Brown.
absolute favorite films, yeah, are Get Up and 42. Those are my absolute favorite films of his, and um, he gave it his all in everything that I've seen him in. He gave it his all, and um, I mean, again, just the last 4 years, nobody knew that he was sick, and even the director, I forgot what his name was, the director of Black Panther didn't know he was sick, and
Ryan Coogler, yeah.
again, yeah, yeah. So again, even realizing like he was just dumbfounded, like he was shocked to know that you would never have guessed that he was sick. So um, it's definitely hard to hear that kind of news. I mean, for us, we're fans. We didn't know him, but he had an impact in our lives.
Sure did.
He had an impact because of the movies he did, and just hearing all these stories of him. And I've seen tons of interviews with him. Well, it was more of when the movies were coming out of like Black Panther and Avengers and all that. So, but just seeing how he is, and again, the kind of impact he had on kids' lives and differences he made and what he stood for and what Black Panther stood for. Um, so yeah, I mean, really, it's hard.
Yeah. Well
It's
said,
hard
man.
to see that, So
And
yeah.
we'll continue the discussion on Chadwick later this week with the rest of our Geekcast crew.
Hmm.
And if you want to see statements from Ryan Coogler, Chris Evans, Robert Downey Jr., head on over to our Facebook page. We were just sharing all the tributes, especially Ryan Coogler's. He wrote like a 3-page tribute to Bozeman. It's absolutely beautiful. If you haven't seen it yet, I strongly suggest you head over to Countdown to the Geekcast on Facebook and read Coogler's tribute to one Chadwick Boseman. And that'll do it for this episode of the Countdown to the Geekcast. What did you think about Bill and Ted Face the Music? We want to hear from you guys. Send us a message on Facebook. Just hit that send message button. Or you could also reach us on the contact page of our website at www.countdowntothegeekcast.com. For the Geekcast, my name is Steady. With me on this episode is the one and only Jericho.
Later, y'all.
Be excellent to each other.
No, you can't see my hand. Where is it? The X.
You're supposed to say the second line. And
what was the rest? And
party on, dudes.
Oh.
Be excellent to each other.
And party on, dudes.
Yeah. Have a good night, everybody.
Later.
Hey guys, AJ and Aaron here. For more Geekcast episodes, subscribe to us on your podcast app and please write us a review. Be sure to like us at Facebook at facebook.com/CountdownCityGeekcast. Follow us on Twitter at ccg_podcast or visit our website at www.countdowncitygeekcast.com. See you later, guys.